All right, welcome back. All right, let's make a couple predictions. Where do you think String Bean's going to end up sleeping since he forgot the poles to his tent? Do you think he's going to go in with Jigsaw and Ralphie? Or do you think he's going to sleep with his dad? Let's wait and see if we can find out the answer to that. This is Chapter 3, called To Build a Fire. Our group had reserved 12 sites in the campground. Right away, the dads turned 2 sites into the cooking and eating areas. They carried over a bunch of picnic tables and put them in a U shape. It looked really cool. There was an open field across the way, and beyond that, a lake with a little sandy beach. We found my dad and Mr. Jordan by the cooking area. They were laughing and unloading food and putting things in order. "Who's cooking tonight?" Ralphie asked. "You're looking at him," my dad said. Ralphie whispered to me, "I hope your dad is a better cook than a driver. I thought we would never get here." My dad frowned. "I heard that, Ralphie. Never fear, Chef Jones is here. Spaghetti dinner tonight. I promise not to take a shortcut looking for the meatballs." We told them about String Bean's missing tent poles. Mr. Jordan knelt down in front of String Bean. "Don't worry, Green Bean. We'll find a place for you to sleep." Jasper mumbled, "It's String Bean, sir." Mr. Jordan looked confused. He couldn't understand String Bean's mumble-jumble. "String cheese?" he asked. "Do you want a piece of string cheese?" "Never mind," String Bean said. My dad spoke up. "You can sleep with Jigsaw's brothers, Daniel and Nick. They have extra room in their tent." Mr. Jordan stood up and pointed. "Ah, there comes everybody." We saw a large group of kids walking toward us from the lake. They were wet and smiling. "You guys missed it!" Mila cried out. "The lake's awesome! Where have you been?" Mila was my friend and partner. We did all our detective work together. Mila looked at us and then at my dad. "Don't tell me. Your dad got lost again?" "Lost?" my dad said. "Lost? I wouldn't call it lost." Mr. Jordan laughed. "Well, what would you call it then?" My dad arched an eyebrow. "The scenic route," he replied. "Anyway, gather some wood, kids. We're going to make a bonfire tonight. In the meantime, I'll start cooking." After dinner, Lucy Hiller's father taught us how to build a proper fire. Then he firmly told us we should never, ever build a fire. I scratched my head and watched. "You need 3 kinds of wood for a fire," Mr. Hiller explained. He held out a handful of pine needles, dry grasses, and wood shavings. "This is called tinder. It catches fire easily and burns fast." He set a small pile in the fire area. "Next, we need kindling. These dry twigs will do nicely." He set them on top of the tinder in a little pyramid. Mr. Hiller lit the tinder. A few small flames began to lick at the kindling. Mr. Hiller explained, "When the kindling catches, we'll add larger pieces of wood. Dead, dry sticks are the best. There seem to be plenty lying around, so go find some, boys and girls. Remember, don't hurt any trees. Leave the living branches alone. We only want dead wood that's already on the ground." After we gathered wood for the fire, it got dark. A gang of us played flashlight tag in the field. Then it was story time. Mr. Hitchcock told the coolest, scariest stories. And along with it, we ate s'mores. It was the only greatest food on the planet. Chapter 4. Mr. Hitchcock tells a story. Mr. Hitchcock wasn't green, and he didn't have a stem growing out of his head, but other than that, he looked exactly like a pear, with arms and legs, naturally. Mr. Hitchcock had narrow shoulders and a wide stomach. His head was large and perfectly bald. His lower lip was thick, and he didn't appear to have a neck. He sat down with a heavy grunt. We all watched him closely. 4-year-old Sally Ann Sims, who was the youngest kid on the trip, sat on the log between Mr. Hitchcock and Jasper Noonan. I liked Sally Ann. She was a hurricane in lavender and pink. If you told Sally Ann a scary story, she'd just shrug. She'd say, politely, "More blood, please." Mr. Hitchcock shivered. and he said loudly to no one in particular, "Well, I talked to the ranger. She said everything's been quiet, no signs of the lake creature, so I think we'll be safe." "Lake creature?" Danica Starling asked. "Like, whoa, back up. Did you say lake creature?" "Oh, never mind," Mr. Hitchcock said. He glanced nervously in the direction of the lake. "It's probably nothing. I doubt stories are true." "What stories?" my brother Nick asked. "Yeah, what stories?" piped up Wingnut O'Brien and his best friend Freddie Fenderbank. Wingnut and Freddie were like peanut butter and jelly. You never saw one without the other. This was their first trip of one of our camping trips. Wingnut was my next-door neighbor. I didn't know much about Freddie. He had messy red hair and less than a million freckles. From the look on his clothes, I'd say he'd recently been attacked by a mud puddle. Mr. Hitchcock stirred the fire with a long stick. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. We sat gathered around the warm flames, waiting. "I shouldn't have said anything," he muttered, scolding himself. "I don't want to scare these kids." A chorus of voices went up. "It's okay. We won't get scared. Besides, we like getting scared." I noticed Jasper Noonan's face turning white, and he didn't say a word. Sally Ann nodded enthusiastically. "Scare us," she demanded. Mr. Hitchcock sighed. "Well, maybe I should tell you, but only for your safety." Everyone sat perfectly still, hardly breathing. "Hoo, hoo," an owl hooted from a distant tree. Mr. Hitchcock gazed into the night sky. A full moon gazed back. He sighed. "It began a few years ago," he said. "It was a misty night like tonight, full of shadows and dark gloom." Mr. Hitchcock continued. "It's on full moons like tonight, you know. When the creature crawls out of the lake, he slips into the darkness and prowls around." Wow. Let's make some predictions. Do you think they're going to see something? Do you think there really is a creature in the lake? Do you think that String Bean and Ralphie Jordan, all of them, are going to get scared? I don't know. Let's wait and see. Stay tuned.